Hi guys, I'm Zoe from Zoe's Fancy Cakes, and in today's video I want to show you how to use the new Plaits Braids mould that I've brought out. So I've brought out a few different hair molds recently, and I've only just got around to making the video for the Plaits Braids, so apologies. So you can see this is what it creates, these purple ones here. So there's a big assortment of different sort of plaits and braids in there, and even some little buns as well. I've also got a straight hair one, but there's another video already on YouTube for that. So also the same for the curly hair one and also the wavy hair one. So you can find the videos for those on my channel now. So I've just made a little bust using my head and body mold, which you can find on my website. And what I'll do is I'll put links below the video, guys, to those. And I'm just gonna use the Serratino modeling paste. So you can use a gum paste. You can even use fondant, but it's easier to use a gum paste or modeling paste because it's a little bit firmer for the mold. And before you start, you want to brush the mold with some corn flour just to make sure that your paste doesn't stick into the mold. And then you're gonna roll it roughly to the shape, and you're just gonna press it into the little cavity that you want to use. So I'm gonna start with this one here. I'm gonna press it down nice and flat. Just cut any extra off. If you find it sticks to your fingers when you're trying to push it in the mold, just put some corn flour on your fingers, or you can use a modeling tool. It's also got some little bun pieces in here. So I just want to show you these because you'll notice there's little slits in the edge of them, and that's just to help you get those out. So we'll put those in there. It's ideal if you can leave the paste in there for 10 minutes or so just to firm up once you've used it. It will help you get it out. But you can see if I push the cocktail stick in that slit in the end and then pull upwards, it should help you remove those little pieces that are a bit deeper in the mold. So you can see the three different styles of the buns there. And you see there's some thinner pieces of like little twists and things in there. So this video, guys, is just gonna be part one. I'm gonna do a few different styles on this one. Oh, I also had a visitor while I was making this video. So there's lots of different styles you can create using these plaits and braids. This was probably the most popular of the hair molds when we were selling them at Cake International the other week, and they are available on my website as well, guys. Like I say, I'll put links below this video so you can find them easily. And let's start by putting the piece that I've had in the mold, and I've made a few of these same pieces. I'm gonna wrap it around sort of the top of the head, giving her a side parting. I'm just gluing it on with some water. So the first piece goes from where I want this parting to start, and it's gonna come around sort of the front of a forehead, and then it's going to go around the back of a head. I've just trimmed a little bit off around the back, and then I'm going to add the second piece, which is the same shape piece again from that mold. I'm going to join it at the parting again, starting up near the top of a head near the front, wrap it round towards the back and pinching it together a little bit as I come around to the back where it's going to meet with the other one. And again, let's do the same. So you can also push the top of the piece of paste together to get it into smaller gaps easier, because you'll see, because this one's a wideish strip, it doesn't easily just fit together to wrap around the head unless you're using it as like long pieces of hair. So I'm just pointing it at the top. You will find if you put it on while it's still very soft, you will squash out some of those marks. So just use a little modeling tool. I'm just using my Dresden tool here just to push some lines back into the top. And then that thin piece, that thin twist that I had earlier, I've just cut a little bit shorter, and we're just gonna add that to the front of her hair. And let's use the other part of the cut piece, and let's just stick it down there like so. I haven't worried about giving this one ears. You can obviously on your models give them ears. You can also cut the strip. So if you're using the same piece from the mold that I am, you can cut it down into smaller pieces if you want. And I'm just gonna now stick these smaller pieces over the top of the original pieces just to give it a bit more volume. So starting from the hairline again, and I'm bringing it down to sort of almost to one shoulder, and that's because I'm gonna give her a bun on that shoulder. Just make sure they're stuck down nice and firmly. You can use edible glue. I'm just using water because it usually works fine for me. Then I'm going to take the bun, or the more rounded piece that I fancy, like this one that's got the little twists in it, and I'm just going to press that on, put plenty of water on her shoulder where it's going to rest. So that's style one. So let's have a go at another style now. So I'm making more of that same piece for this one. Like I said, I'm gonna do more than one video for this particular mold, guys, because there's so many different styles you can do there. What you'll find is if you take it out of the mold when it's very soft, you can see some of my pieces look longer than other pieces. It's stretched as I've pulled it out of the mold, and that's because I've put it in the mold and taken it straight out. If you can give it 10 minutes in the mold to firm up a little bit, or if you're really finding yours is soft, you can put it in the fridge or even freezer for 10 minutes. But do be careful if you're doing that, guys, because you can get condensation forming on the paste when you take it out of the fridge or freezer, and then instead of it coming out of the mold easier, it can stick. So just be very careful if you are going to do it that way. So this time I'm going to start at the join between the head and the neck, and I'm just pinching it off where it meets the top of the head. Now, to make it thinner at the top, earlier you saw me pinching it together. You can also trim a little triangle out of the top and then push those pieces together. You can also do the same at the bottom. So if we cut out a little triangle or even two little triangles, and you probably shouldn't do it on your hand like what I'm doing, guys. It just pushes together and it will bring it more to a point for you. So I'm just repeating the same now with all these pieces of hair. So it's just that same strip that I've used, and I keep cutting it down a bit smaller if I don't need it quite as thick. And then I'm going to take a small short piece. It almost looks like a knitted pattern, how I've got it nice and short there. So with the fringe, it is a shorter piece. It's just still that same cavity in the mold that I've used. And I'm cutting out a few small little triangles from the end so that it's not too straight. And then I'm also cutting some triangles out from the other side so we can bring it a little bit closer together. And I'm just going to push this up near the front of her head. But it's not really a fringe, this is just the pieces of hair that go from sort of the top of her forehead pulled backwards. So in this one, we're going to put her hair tied up, I think, on the top of her head. So that's why all the pieces are joining at one part. Can you see in the middle at the top of her head? So they're all coming thinner and meeting at that part at the top. So I'm taking some smaller pieces and just pushing them in along sort of from the edge of the hairline along sort of the side of her forehead up towards that center point. So she looks a bit weird at first, but that's fine. So I'm just going to take a tiny little piece of paste that's not been in the mold, and then we're going to wrap it with more of the pieces from the mold. So that, again, that same piece that we've been using throughout, I've cut it a little bit thinner, and I'm simply going to wrap it around there. And then I'm going to try and take a little bit more and kind of curve it to cover the top part of it. Just pressing any lines that you've accidentally pushed out. Now, I'm just pushing her onto my ears just quickly because she looks weird without the ears. So I feel like it's going to help me work out the hairstyle a bit more if her ears are on. The only thing is it's just nudged my hair to one side a little bit. But that piece now that we've made is going to stick onto the top of her head, like so. And like I say, if you squashed any bits, just put some lines in with your modeling tool. Now, the idea of the mold is that you shouldn't really have to do this too much, but sometimes if you've got hot hands or you've not let the paste set for long enough in the mold, then you might have to just press the odd bit in, because sometimes when you push it onto the head, you can lose some of that definition. Okay, so there's that one all finished. So let's move on to another style. So again, I'm trying to just keep to this same piece, same cavity of the mold, just to show you this bit first. We'll do a part 2 shortly with the other hairstyles from the mold as well. So this time I'm just going to put them on fairly long, and I'm starting over the shoulder and I'm cutting them. So we're going to have this one with fairly long pieces of hair. So this, using the same cavity, I've kind of cut between each one so it makes them look like looser pieces of hair. You can use the individual strands in the mold, but I thought it was quicker to do it this way. So I'm pressing them onto sort of the shoulder, kind of sort of from the back of her jaw, so it comes over the front of her shoulder. And then I'm going to take some more pieces and I'm just going to take them from where her ear would be, coming down and again over the shoulder. Then I'm going to take the piece sort of as it is and press it from her hairline on the top of her head just down sort of the side of her face. So we're keeping these the full size that they came out of the mold. And then we're going to take another piece and I'm going to take a triangle out of the top of it again, or even 2 triangles out the top, so that when I push them together, they become thinner. Just gonna make it easier. Can you see when we push it onto the top of her head there? So I'm putting that in front of the last one, and we can do the same with another one, but sort of behind the last one. And just make sure you've put plenty of water on these to stick them in place, guys. Press them fairly firmly. We don't want them to slide off. I'm just using water. And then I'm gonna add another piece, coming from the other side of her head, just up and meeting the hairline. And you're just going to now fill in all the way, covering the whole of that head. You're going to want to make sure that each piece of hair comes to a point so that it's easier to push them all into the gap at the back of the head where they're all meeting into that hairline. And you want it to look like the hair's coming down the back of her head and it's just sweeping over to one shoulder. So there's that one. Okay, so we're going to do another style, again using the same cavity from the mold. I'm going to try and make her a little ponytail with it this time. So same as last time, we've taken the piece and we've cut it so it looks like individual strands even though it's not. We've just kind of cut them so they're a bit looser. I'm curling the top bit together a little bit, and I'm just going to add a little bit of a cocktail stick to the top of her head because I want this to stand up quite a bit. I'm putting a little bit of modeling paste onto the cocktail stick, not much, just a little bit, adding it with water so that the hair has got something to stick to when we add the hair to it. So now I'm pressing that piece of hair that we had around the stick. So I'm pressing it onto the piece of paste that we've already put on there, and it's going to kind of hang downwards. So it's going to come downwards, so you see it kind of curves a little bit and then drops. And you can add more pieces of hair to this if you don't think the hair is thick enough as it is. So I'm going to use 2 different ones now from the mold, like a single twist and then this double thickness one. And we're going to alternate them as we put them on the head. And I'm going to think about where I want the hairline to kind of start all the way around this sort of side of the face and the forehead. And we're going to stick a piece from there towards where that ponytail is. And then I'm going to go for the kind of double thickness one. I'm going to leave a small gap, and then we're going to add that one in the same direction. And we're going to keep going with these. So it'll be like a single one, then a double thick one, up to the base of the ponytail. So from the hairline to the ponytail. I'm just pressing where it meets sort of the forehead. I'm pressing that down a little bit with the end of my Dresden tool. So have a bit of a play around with the different cavities. You know, you might want to use a thicker one for this as well if you want it to fill in a little bit quicker. And you're going to do that all the way around. And then I'm using this little plait one. We only need a short section of this bit of the mold. It just needs to be long enough that we can wrap it around the top of the, or not the top, the base of the ponytail, the bit that's connected to a head like that. Just make sure the seam's at the back, because then the hair will cover it. Okay, so there's that one all done with our hair up. So there's so many different styles you can create with this mold, guys. I know I've only really showed you how to use like a couple of the cavities on this one so far for part 1. So keep an eye out for part 2 of the Plaits and Braids hairstyles coming in very soon. And I'm going to be showing you more of the plaits part. And then I'm probably going to do a few more as well. But I'd love to see what you guys have been making with these molds. The pictures you've been sharing so far are absolutely amazing. So don't forget to tag me on social media, Zoes Fancy Cakes, so I can see what you've been making. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to hit the thumbs up button and leave me a comment below. You can see more of my tutorials by clicking on the images on screen now. If you haven't already, make sure you click the subscribe button to stay up to date with my future tutorials. There are also links in the description box below where you can find me on Facebook, Instagram and more.